Here we go, everyone. What's going on? I hope you're well and doing great. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and this is CTM. First of all, taking a look at our positionings, we are heavy now into stocks. Stocks are obviously building up a wave over here, and we are completely neutral when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto. We're seeing things like gold breaking out today. Remember in yesterday's session, we were talking about and lining up this particular setup right now, saying it looked attractive, and we see some follow through today. Gold, silver acting much the same. And question must be two things. First of all, is this the breakout that sends gold back towards its all-time highs? And or is Bitcoin going to follow suit? So those are two things that we're going to look at here this morning. We're also going to take a look, obviously, what's going on across the markets, across our positioning. We're seeing this morning a little bit of pressure coming out. You could see it over here expressed well on the Mag 7, giving back a bit of gains here this morning. We're seeing memory actually following through on that breakout that we were saying was setting up yesterday, and how memory was lagging, how Mag 7 was leading. We were seeing the breakout coming out on the semiconductors, and memory was leading. Today, we're seeing, and memory was lagging. Today, we're seeing a little bit of follow through on memory. And, Michelle said this morning that NASDAQ's taking a breath here. And I have to actually put this pun in over here. First of all, we did have yesterday the follow-through day confirmed. Higher volume than the previous day. 4 days after, in that window between 4 and 7 days after the initial rally day, we had our trendline breakout over here. We got above the area of resistance that we were looking for. And so far, we often see breakout, retest to a lower level. So far, holding up pretty well as we do take a bit of a breath here this morning. And just one thing I wanted to point out on that breath. This is here from Quant Data 21. Median stock in the US has just broken to new all-time highs yesterday for the first time in 5 years. This is not just an AI rally. This is breath. That's what reminded me of Michelle's talking about the breath that was happening over here. This is the business cycle doing business cycle things. When I read that, I was like, that's so cool. I love Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things, business cycle doing Bitcoin things. I had to check, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's following me. And I just like, great minds think alike. Loved it. Great post over here for sure. And that's a great sign that we are seeing breath here, very healthy. We're seeing here NASDAQ looking good. We're seeing over here the S&P trading at new all-time highs. We're going to have to come back to this one. I'm not ready for it. We'll have to come back to this one. But we are ready for a lot. By the way, just to check in over here, yields continue to be elevated. Just coming off briefly the recent high. We see obviously lockstep over here. Looking at light crude oil futures trading back down to $75, and the dollar coming off a little bit. I was wondering yesterday, this is just complete speculation. I'm just throwing it out there. I was thinking yesterday morning about, okay, we're seeing intervention occur, Bank of Japan. We're seeing the U.S. Treasury doing like a token intervention, selling some euros to go ahead and buy yen. And it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big intervention, but it was a show of good solidarity. And then, it wasn't as if they were selling dollars to buy yen. They were selling euros. And then I was thinking, well, even still, it seems that the U.S. wants a weaker dollar policy. And then I know that this is not going to go over well with anyone, and no one is probably going to embrace this theory, but I wonder about what seems to be the recklessness that's occurred with the whole Strait of Hormuz situation, and the U.S. taking what was a free passage lane and working towards what looks like putting a toll on that. And then I wonder, was that done on purpose in order to force de-dollarization? Is perhaps Triffin's dilemma too much right now for the United States? And in this new financial system they're looking to architect, was that potentially one of the goals? That's the only reason I could think of for what looks like just extreme. I mean, you could go back and you could say, was that the same thing though? Did the U.S. mean to do that when they confiscated Russia's reserves, central bank's reserves? That definitely caused a bit of dollarization, at least in the U.S. Treasury market. I don't know, just some thoughts and a little bit of a sidetrack. All right. So let's take a look what's going on over here. We're seeing stocks leading, Amazon, FNGU under a little pressure today off of Google. And what happened with Google, let's take a look at that. So I'm going to just jump over. By the way, NVIDIA entering the market today. And what's interesting is that now we do have the fix. Just on NVIDIA, you saw yesterday that there were a lot of updates pushed to our strategies, fixing the table display, going ahead and one of them I thought I was fixing was that at the end of the day, when the trade is confirmed, it would right away go from enter long pending to enter long confirmed. And on the initial push, that wasn't rectified. Afterwards, I just updated NVIDIA since NVIDIA had the long pending. It actually works now, which means that I have to go ahead and push another update so that every single ticker is showing the correct confirmation at the close. So do look out for that and one more update to go ahead and do. So we're seeing FNGU long, NVIDIA long, Tesla is still short. Google closing the gap. A lot of people are like, I was like, wow, look at that massive dump. What's going on over here with Google? And it turns out that they had their leadership of Google DeepMind became its chair and Alphabet chief scientist, with operational duties shifting. Apple's roughly $4.6 trillion market cap means a 5% decline represented over $200 billion in lost value, underscoring investor sensitivity to key eye leadership changes at Google amid ongoing talent competition. And at the same time, you see Amazon here on yesterday's long also closing the gap. So all the way I view this is that we saw Google close the gap, and now we've seen Amazon close the gap. We'll see right here if the markets are able to catch its footing. And let's take a look at Bitcoin, as Bitcoin and crypto here are currently on the sidelines, and we're looking forward to that wave. To set up Bitcoin, first we need to take a look at what's happening on gold. So I'm going to just jump back over and we see that double black diamond. I heard someone say that Cardano is also over here setting up with a double black diamond. So I'll look at that 1 second. So first of all, we are seeing follow through today and gold trading up to $4,250. Is this the breakout? That has to be the question. And what would be causing the breakout? Is it potentially and likely, first of all, when we see what looks to be like round two, deja vu of another agreement, an hysterical agreement, because Iran's like, oh no, we're not negotiating with the US, yet we are, and whatever. And you know how long it lasts is both sides are probably using it as an opportunity to go ahead and let's say defensify, stockpile, and get ready for another round. But in this moment, we are likely seeing the odds of any type of potential hike in September being reduced right now with the pressure of energy being subdued over here. And that's probably what gold is reacting to in this particular moment. A lot of people were thrown off where normally gold has been a geopolitical hedge. In this particular moment of time, we saw the inverse happen, where since the war broke out, gold has been under major pressure. And now, as you can see, that every time there's a potential pause in the action, gold responds well. Likely it has to do with the trajectory of the Fed funds. So is this the breakout? And you can see that, first of all, the next resistance, the conservative breakout, the one that if it breaks out has the higher probability of actually achieving a much bigger move. This is an aggressive entry over here. That comes in right now somewhere around, let's call it 4,400. What's interesting about that level, and I think it's pretty big resistance, is you can see that we have the structure over here. We have the two touches off the bottom over here. I'm going to go ahead and just lift that up over here right now and bring it over here to where we just touched down as a test of support that then broke, where the bodies of the candles came out, right? And obviously that's variable. You could bring it to the top of the wicks over here, and it's in that area. And that area happens to be, though, right around 4,400. So that's, I don't know, I don't believe that we're going to be able to, on the first try, break out above there. That's the place, if you took this trade, I would begin peeling, taking profits off, and feeling pretty good about the nice snipe you've taken out of the market over there, and maybe leaving a little bit on for running. A break above there, though, that's an opportunity to actually add more to the position and look for some more follow through. So that's what we're watching here on gold. And the question is, well, what about Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin getting ready to do Bitcoin things? We're watching, obviously, where I'm watching. I know most people are watching the 4-year cycle. And that means to them that Bitcoin bottoms in September, bottoms in October. And, because recession, all signs, U.S. economy has remained extraordinarily resilient. We talked about how we're seeing breadth improve. Everything looks pretty strong. The one worry, the one concern looks like it's being alleviated a little bit today, and that would be that as reserves worldwide, oil reserves worldwide, not just the U.S. Strategic Reserve, are almost down to the bottom, that we could see some type of energy shock. That would obviously be something that would cause massive distress to the markets. That would be not a macro black swan because everyone is watching for it, but it would be a pivotal moment if that were to happen. Now, you all know that I said, well, I know that price made the all-time high over here. It looks to me that this was caused by the $20 billion into the ETFs that we saw during this time, pushing price up. Structurally, the high looked over here, and I said that points to a bottom over here in February. And since then, we've had a liquidity grab taking it out, but that analysis still holds as a potential path of what's happening. More importantly, is what is happening next, and we know that all past bull markets have had a breakout from the wedge. And I don't know if this breaks out to the upside, and I don't know if this breaks to the downside. And if this breaks to the downside, without question, that's going to go ahead and give a high percentage of a window into the fall. Obviously, midterm elections have put pressure on markets into September, beginning of October through August in the past, and it would align. Maybe the trigger could be something like Iran saying, actually, we're going to go ahead and just escalate once again. Or it could be something like the Clarity Act coming to vote and not passing. There could be a lot of potential triggers that could cause it, and we could all see that happening, but it could also work the other way, and we could see the Clarity Act get passed, and we could see, even though this defying seasonality is a bit of a risk-on movement, right? And follow momentum, trade what's happening, not what you just perceive is going to happen. And a breakout over here at this particular time would catch a lot of people off guard. Let's look at it from a few different lenses. I'll start over here. And what I want to point out, though, is to begin with, y'all remember the first conservative breakout we had. We did this together. This was, we called the bull market July 20th. CTM live of Bitcoin. We have been accumulating in this area for months. Finally, about 6-8 months, finally the breakout, the moment of truth on the retest, and then it was on. A simple trend line break. If you were doing that over here, first of all, this is something we did line up. We were able to call the new all-time high into October. I think it was luck. It was pretty erroneous, or I'd say. But let's go back, and then we could go to the all-time high in November 2021. And what you see happen over here is a breakout. It holds over here. It continues to resume before failing and breaking down. We called the first de-risk event, by the way, 53,000 off a trend line break like that. We called the second one over here on the break of 35,000. And then we told if you didn't de-risk on the first two opportunities, 28,000, your last opportunity. But what happened over here was this first breakout failed. And after it failed, go ahead and redraw the line. And this is interesting that, remember what happened over here? This was not where we called the bull market breaking out. We called it at 17,250. This was our first confirmation that the bull market was indeed beginning to take form and break out. Now, what's interesting about that is go ahead and do the same thing about what just happened. A lot of people are looking at bear market structure and they're saying this one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, well, here's the first breakout over here to the upside. And once again, that one fails. Once it fails, I'm going to go ahead and break it out over to here. And this one over here, it broke out and it failed again. First de-risking, second de-risking, and then go ahead and jump it over to here. And I would say that if this one were to break out, there's probably a good chance that it's going to hold. That's not too far away from market. That's around $69,000. That's not too far away from market. Maybe we could look at a few other things that are taking place and get a better understanding of what is happening. I want to jump over and take a look at this chart over here. This one's really interesting. And this one's really interesting because it's showing a potential underbelly breakout happening right now. So before we get there, let's just start with the lab work that I was showing you. And we could see that on this last breakdown over here, until this taking a nice 18% out of the market, and then we saw a breakout here to the upside. That breakout then has failed since. I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm just going to go after the breakout, move this line to the last low. I'm not getting it the best. And then you can see that we broke down over here, and this was an entry to the upside. And then just null, right? After that nice 18% take, just null. And then you could see that after that triggered, I go ahead and I take the bar over here and I look and I say, well, now we're short, but we've just now entering back to the long side. So we do have the earliest signs of momentum kicking to the upside. By the way, this is also another way of looking at it, another way that I look at it. And it's showing me right now as we're triggering on the long side, this drop not as much, a 14% catch, or sorry, 11% catch. But you can see that as long as we're above this trend line over here, right now momentum is to the upside on Bitcoin. Right now momentum is to the upside on Bitcoin from all different ways of viewing it, except that we have not yet taken an entry on Bitcoin. So I just want to show you what that lines up for and looks like over here. So you can see that Bitcoin is currently out of the market. We're waiting for some upside pressure to kick. I'm just looking at if we had any type of opportunity. We're close, but we're not there yet. And actually, we'd be getting above just a safer level before that momentum kicked in. I need to take a quick look at Cardano before I go back to Bitcoin and show you what's developing. And someone said that a double black diamond was developing on a Cardano. And Cardano is all, guys, I know most people right now are just out of favor with Bitcoin and crypto, but a lot of massive bear market trend lines seem to be potentially getting ready to break. Those lines usually surprise a lot of people about the follow through. I'm looking for a double black diamond now, and it might be easier to see it like that. You could say that one stopped out. We come over to here, and I think that's what was being looked at over here right now, that double black diamond that's currently in effect right now, waiting for the conservative line breakout to take place. Happening all over the place right now, and it feels good right now managing a bunch of positions and being here on the right side, and following that momentum where it's kicking first. By the way, we saw a couple of entries overnight, and now we have behind. We have on V5 Plus behind V5 an enter long pending on NVIDIA and also on ALAB for those that are watching and getting ready to position. Bringing it back, running it back over here, I want to just bring up the old confirmation of the bull market. So this is work that we were doing back in, 2022, I do believe. And right now we have the outermost resistance. That's like, oh, let me show you over here. So initially I had put this line like this. And I was like, that's the outermost trend line resistance that needs to break for the bull market to actually be confirmed that there's no more trend line resistance, right? 17,250 was our call of the bull market. This was the confirmation, the last confirmation. And then CTM was like, no, well, Jordan, clone that line and bring it back over here. And you could see that that's earlier. And then that led me to go, oh, you're absolutely correct. How can we take that even further? That's what I want to know. So, you know what? It's hard to say. Because where we were at the end of 2022 was a completely bearish sentiment across the board everywhere. It's because we had equity markets in a massive correction, in a massive bear market. We had Bitcoin in a massive correction, in a massive bear market. We don't have that today. We have stocks trading, indexes, S&P at all-time highs, NASDAQ coming out of correction, just off all-time highs, and Bitcoin and crypto in a massive bear market. So it is a little different this time about what's taking place. It's a lot different. However, the only one thing that's the same, it was whether it was equity markets and or Bitcoin, it was because the sentiment was so bearish, it was follow what's happening on the chart, follow the technicals. We're seeing a trend line break, close your eyes and just take the trade. That, and more often than not, that it's the hardest trade at the most difficult time that wind up being the most well, I'll say successful, the most profitable, the biggest, leading to the biggest gains. And if this were to happen on Bitcoin right now, I would say, well, that makes a lot of sense, and that lines up for what's taking place over here with the sentiment very, very bearish. I mean, this trend line, if it were to break, is an inverse head and shoulders, right? A lot of people on the way down were looking for what was a head and shoulder break on Bitcoin. And if it was looked at something like this, and that has gone ahead and paid off. But this is also an inverse, I mean, a head and shoulders inverse over here right now with the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. And if you get the breakout, we'll see what happens and what develops. Bringing it back though over to here to show you what happened then. And after CTM was like, Jordan, clone the line, look over there, see what's happening. And then I kept going further. So I wait till price made a lower low. Once price made a lower low, I would bring this down off to the high. So over here, price makes a lower low. So you come down off of to this high right now. So I'll show you right there. And then price over here comes up and then makes a lower low over here. So this is now the high. So okay, I take that up to the high over there. And then price over here makes a lower low again. Okay, well, this is the high right now. So break it down over here, right there. And then price comes into it, doesn't take it out, makes another lower low. All right, well, not much of a movement, but this is now the correct place. Price bottoms over here. I mean, this might be too much for me because price does, I'm just taking broad strokes over here. Price makes a lower low over here. Probably and technically correct that this may be the move to go, but I can't verify that. So and then you see when price breaks above, you know, that is not 17,250, but it's a nice affirmation, a confirmation of the breakout in place. So over here, similar thing. Like, this is the outermost trend line that needs to be confirmed in order for us to say that there is no more trend line resistance on the breakout. It's not going to be the bottom of the bull market, but it'll be a nice confirmation that the bull market is underway. Over here, I see price make a lower low. So this is now the high. You could bring it down over here. And then once again, price makes the lower low. This one becomes the high over here. Go ahead and put it down. Then price does not make a lower low, right, until over here. So now the highest price point is over here. I'm going to go ahead and drop it down. And then we see over here, price does not make a higher low until here. So this is the higher price point over here, bringing it down. And then what we see over here happen is that price makes a lower low. And this is now the high. And I said, well, we have a breakout, an underbelly breakout underway. So yeah, that's a sign. It's the first time it's happened since the high in October that we've seen that happen. Now, it doesn't mean that's for sure in play. And just to verify with you, I want to just go back and just check all of these price making the lower low, whether or not another one happened, because one happens right here, right? Price makes the lower low right over here. And then you could see that price makes the higher high right there, right? So once price makes the higher high, what do? You come back over with this one. Oh, I'm going to get off of that. Price makes the higher high. Do you guys see what I'm saying? This is price making a lower low. This is actually the high right there. Price breaks above it. Price breaking above it right here is not infallible. It doesn't mean that's the bottom. It means that, well, there's potential. A lot is pointing to a potential, right? You have to go like this. After the breakout, you now have this as you're wrong. This is flipping back to the right side. Make sense? And you can see like that happens again over here. Price made a lower low. That's the high, right? So then once that happens and price trades up here to the upside, you have to have where you're wrong. And it looks like that. All right. So there we are. All right, CTM. Here we are managing positions. I told you yesterday that, first of all, we got the FNGU showing the FNGU entry, not right, because we trade off the FNG short side, but we take the inverse on the buy side. That's now corrected. We have on the stocks, just like we did on crypto, the percentages. That's corrected. We have on NVIDIA and fixed now, like on V2, when you see the entry confirmed at the close of the day, that shows up on the table right away now. That was only pushed out for NVIDIA yesterday. That needs to be pushed out for everything. So a lot of dev work has been taking place. I probably have another day of dev work because I need to push out all those updates again today. That's not easy. And then once that's finished, then opens up the door where I get to take off exactly back to everything I was working on prior to leaving for the mountains the last week. So it looks like as we move through this week, we're starting to regain our footing, get into the flow. Got a lot of work ahead, and I'm all about it. So today, light and sweet. Everyone have a beautiful day. Light and sweet and a lot of fun. Love being here with y'all. Appreciate each and every one of you. Everyone, God bless you. Have a beautiful day. I see you all back here on the inside.